Did they have community functions there? Yes. Did they teach people about Islam and Islamic law there? Yes. Did jihadis stay there? Yes. Did they store food and water there? Yes. Did they store ammunition and weapon there? Yes. Did they plan battles from the mosque? Yes. Did they launch wars, jihads, from the mosque, from the Islamic Center? Yes. Who's the most perfect example of a Muslim in Islam? Muhammad. Muhammad did it. It is the perfect example, and that is what a mosque is, period. Doesn't matter what you think it is. So in Islamic doctrine, that is what a mosque is. Why is that important? Because they say in their doctrine, we want the Islamic Center to be just like the first mosque of Muhammad. So when the FBI raids a Islamic Center or a masjid, a mosque, here in the United States, and we find weapons in there, why are we shocked? Has anybody heard of the Islamic Center of Savannah? Sir, you had a question or a comment?
I was just going to mention the word base is Al-Qaeda.
Right, our base. Yeah. Right, which is the point here, constitutes our base for our rise into our life. Yes?
And when we went out to the university, Southern California, which also happened to bring Mohammed Morsi to power, we ran into Chief Downing out there at the Islamic Center of Southern California, which is formed by two brothers.
Right.
Who was direct underling teacher of...
Yes, and we're going to get to that actually. That's a great prelude. So his comment was, when they were out in Southern California, they saw the deputy chief for LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, hosting an event, or present at an event, hosted at the Islamic Center of Southern California, a Muslim Brotherhood center founded by the Hafal brothers, who served with Hassan al-Banna and were in prison in Egypt because they were Muslim brothers. They created the Islamic Center of Southern California. Sir?
Not to belabor it, but trying to get the concept across that Al-Qaeda is not a new term. It's not an organization that started after 9/11. It's an ancient, potently iconic term that goes back to the origin. Al-Qaeda was chosen on purpose.
So for those of you at home, his point is Al-Qaeda, the base, as mentioned here, is not new. It goes all the way back, and it's a very important concept to understand, all the way back to the time of Muhammad. Now, we have about 15 minutes left before our lunch break, and I want to go through some really key nuggets here, and then when we come back after lunch, we'll continue. One of the documents found in the 2004 search in Annandale, Virginia by the FBI was this Phases of the World Underground Movement Plan. And what it simply does, although it's a very important document, is it lists the 5 phases of their plan to take a nation from where it is to them overthrowing the government. I think it's very pertinent because it goes with what we're seeing. First is phase of discreet and secret establishment of elite leadership. This phase has already been implemented in this country. Now this is an undated document that was discovered by the FBI in 2004. Phase 2, phase of gradual appearance on the public scene, exercising and utilizing various public activities. It greatly succeeded in this stage, in implementing this stage. It also succeeded in achieving a great deal of its important goals, such as infiltrating various sectors of government, gaining religious institutions and embracing senior scholars, gaining public support and sympathy, establishing a shadow government secret within the government. A shadow government inside our own government. What's the purpose of a shadow government? Anyone?
Fifth column.
Say again?
Fifth column.
It's like a fifth column. While we are still in control, because see, they actually think they're going to overthrow our government. See, they actually have plans to do it. They're actually working towards it. It doesn't matter. Let me say this again. It doesn't matter if you think they can't do it. They are still well-funded, well-organized, marching forward unopposed thus far, and aided by leadership in our government right now at this point. But the other thing they're doing while they're inside the government is collecting intelligence and information. Let me say this. If you do not understand this, let me make it clear. Every database inside the U.S. government they have access to, because Muslim Brothers are inside the FBI, the CIA, not just as advisors, inside the State Department, inside your military. So they have access to those databases. And collecting intelligence is what they do, because it's all part of prepping the battlefield. That side of what they're doing is they want to soften. When an attack comes, they want to soften the response. When something's going on and somebody wants to go hard at something, they want to be able to settle it, to soften it, so that our response is softened, that we never get to what the real problem is, and as long as they keep us doing that, because we never actually look. And by the way, let me remind all of you out there, it was not President Clinton or President Obama, it was President Bush who said, this, 9/11, has nothing to do with Islam. And in the intelligence and national security realm, that sent a cold shiver straight down the middle. So analysts and agents and operators could look any way they wanted, just not at Islam or his Islamic law, to find the problem. You see how that directly impacts how you analyze this enemy. Phase 3, escalation phase, prior to conflict and confrontation with the rulers through utilizing mass media. Currently in progress, phase 3. Now remember, this is an undated document discovered in 2004. Phase 4, open public confrontation with the government through exercising political pressure approach. It is aggressively implementing the above-mentioned approach. Training on the use of weapons domestically and overseas in anticipation of 0 hour. It has noticeable activities in this regard. We're going to come back to that. Phase 5, seizing power to establish the Islamic nation. Let's go back to this. Training on the use of weapons domestically and overseas in anticipation of 0 hour. It has noticeable activities in this regard. Inherent to the Muslim Brotherhood's organization is the special section. It's the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas's structure is modeled after the Muslim Brotherhood structure because Hamas is
Muslim Brotherhood.
The Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, it's their little stepbrother. Okay? Hamas. So Hamas has a social wing, a political wing, and a military wing. So does the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood's military wing is the special section. They kill people. They blow things up. That's what they do. That's what they've done since they were created. In the 30s, when the Muslim Brotherhood was created in Egypt, what nation had a presence in Egypt? Does anybody remember?
Great Britain or
France.
France.
Right. That's right. And the Muslim Brotherhood said they must get out. Why? Because Islamic law says so. Non-Muslims in Muslim lands is a weighty matter that cannot be ignored. That is a quote from Islamic law. Same quote that Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, used when he talked about non-Muslims in the Arabian Peninsula. And he was right when he quoted Islamic law. Not wrong. If I could take a 16-second tangent. A couple of years ago, we were at a social function, and I was talking to a 4-star general who I liked and had a lot of respect for. Well, after all the pleasantries were done, he wanted to know what I'm doing now that I'm in the Marine Corps. We talked about that. We said, hey, sir, what would you think if we told you that when Al-Qaeda quotes Islamic law, they are accurately quoting Islamic law? And he said, that would probably significantly change the nature of the way we're fighting this war. When we convinced him in about 3 minutes that that's actually the truth, well, he gave me the name and contact information for the intelligence officer of the Marine Corps, and we ended up doing some briefings. I don't see that anything's changed inside the Marine Corps or anywhere else. Although there is a greater understanding that that's true, people are quietly working inside the military, but they can't do much about it. The special section. The media has called it the secret apparatus, which is a misnomer. It's the special section. Now, remember I told you in 2004, one of the things, we collected all kinds of stuff the FBI collected. One was an audio tape of a meeting from 1981 in Michigan of a member of the board of directors for the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States speaking to a room full of Muslim brothers. And we have the tape. That tape was transcribed, translated into English, and entered into evidence in the largest Hamas trial in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation trial, stipulated to by the defense. Now, if your cell phone goes off, that is a six-pack. That's the rule. You can just leave that up here on stage after the lunch break. So, this is the transcription. You see the stamp from the trial here. This is a senior Muslim brother, a guy on the board of directors speaking to a Muslim brother. He lays out the history of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. It's a phenomenal read and not very long. But at the end, he takes questions. And this Muslim brother asks, by securing the group, which is one of the objectives, by securing the group, do you mean military securing? And this leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, whose name is Zaid Naaman, says no. Military work is listed under special work. Special section. Special work is military work. Securing the group is the group security. The group security against outside dangers. For instance, to monitor suspicious movement which exists on the American front, such as Zionism, Masonry, etc. Monitoring suspicious movements or the sides, the government bodies, such as CIA, FBI, etc. Find out if they're monitoring us. Are we not being monitored? How can we get rid of them? That's what's meant by securing the group. So you learn two things here. Number one, military work is the special section. Those are the bad guys, and they're here in the United States. But the Muslim Brotherhood also has an internal security apparatus that does exactly what he's saying it does. Because they had no belief that this conversation would ever be found or leave outside this room. So, this other guy stands up and he says, hey, you're talking about training camps and weapons training camps. Specifically, you mentioned there is weapons training at the Ikwan camps, but I didn't see it at all the mid-southern region camps. Would you explain? It sounds like he's a little annoyed. And Zaid Naaman, the Muslim Brotherhood leader, says, the first thing is you thank God and praise Him because you found a camp to meet in. You know that, for instance, Oklahoma has become a blocked area for you. You can't meet there in the first place. My brothers, according to what I learned, in Oklahoma they started to be strict about Muslims using the camps. This is 1981. They would ask them, for instance, to submit their names and would ask them to bring ID or something to prove their name. I learned they were going to a picnic recently, a trip, and the police came and asked each person to present an ID or show his visa. These harassments exist then in the state of Oklahoma because, those police are so annoying doing their jobs and such. Well, so he says, in some regions, when they go to camp, they take two things. They would request a camp which has a range, a shooting range. One which has a range to shoot, one which has a range which they use for shooting, if you didn't get it the first 3 times. Now, what are they now telling us? Since 1981, the Muslim Brotherhood, from at least 1981, because that's when the date of this discussion took place, are they not saying that the Muslim Brotherhood has jihadi camps here in the United States?
Yes.
Yes, of course they are. That was 31 years ago, folks. But I'm sure, now that they're all moderate and such, they've probably shut all those camps down. So, before we break for lunch, I would like to go through this because it's pretty straightforward. Council on American Islamic Relations is Hamas. They are not just a support entity for Hamas. They were created by Hamas to be a Hamas front in D.C., to be a public relations front for Hamas, serving that political piece of what the Muslim Brotherhood does. Still part of the jihad. How many of you have heard of CARE? Okay, that's just about everybody. So let's dig in. First of all, Nihad Awad and Omar Ahmad. Nihad Awad publicly said at Barry University in 1994 that I'm in support of the Hamas movement more than any other movement in the region. He said that publicly. Omar Ahmad, the chairman of the board for CARE back then, these are the two founders, said Islam isn't in America to be equal to any other faith but to become dominant. The Quran, the Muslim book of scripture, should be the highest authority in America, and Islam the only accepted religion on earth. Well, I would say those two things right there give you already a disposition of who these guys are, but I say you can throw that out if you want. I'm okay with that. Let's look at facts.